I've been through some incredibly tough times owning a gym, from, going bankrupt to losing a trainer and 30 clients in the process, having DA issues and people trying to kick us out of our buildings. We lost 50 clients in 3 months once. And I was also so injured that I couldn't work on the floor, which was absolutely shattering to me. But everything that happened taught me a really amazing lesson about business and helped me go from 27 members all the way up to 1,200. And I shared with you the 5 toughest moments I had in my business career, and also how I overcame those and what I learned along the way. So guys, listen in. It's absolutely bumper podcast today. I hope you enjoy it. So guys, today I'm going to share with you some of the 5 toughest times I had when running a business. They're going to include going bankrupt, a time that we lost a trainer and he took 30 clients and opened a gym just down the road, multiple DA issues or council issues, essentially people trying to kick us out of our facilities. We lost 50 clients in 3 months. It was absolutely insane, very shattering. And when I was injured, I was a trainer and I got, very injured for 12 months and couldn't work as a trainer, and how I overcame that. So the reason for this, guys, is I want to share with you some of the things that I did along the journey. We went from 27 members all the way to 1,200, and to show you that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You're going to have incredibly tough times, and to share with you a couple of the lessons that I learned. Firstly, I'll say I hope that you don't ever go through these. But if you are going through these, or if you do go through these in the future, it's going to really arm you with some very, very solid skills and tactics and attributes to make sure you overcome this and you don't let any setback kind of curtail your business and really, do damage. So the first one was like going bankrupt. So, what kind of happened was we were in a facility. It was quite a small facility, and it was doing like incredibly well, and then we moved to a bigger facility that was like 500 square meters. So we kind of banked that with our own cash, didn't get loans and things like that, which is actually very foolish. Didn't have massive cash flow capital. We went into the facility and it was losing like $14,000 a month, sometimes even more. Now, within that moment, I remember we were like sitting on like the back of my friend's ute or like pickup at the beach, and we're like, I think we should give up here. Like, we didn't really know how to get out of it. We didn't know how to market, how to sell, how to fill this gym, what to do. We were like extremely stressed, and essentially we decided to give it like a 3-month crack and see what happens. And what I kind of realized in that stage was that there was a lot of things that I didn't know, right? And that there was a lot of holes within our business because we kind of grew off referral and word of mouth to a certain level. And then when you go bigger, it wasn't really moving the direction we had to because we had really big cash flow issues. So firstly, what we initially did is we decided not to give up, right? We gave ourselves a 3-month timeline, and we met up with our accountant, and we knew exactly how many members we had to add in that 3-month period and what our break-even mark was. So it's very important that you know the financials in any business. So you should be checking your P&L every month. You should be doing like forecasts on where you'll be in 3 and 6 months' time. They're all kind of things that we can teach you within our Inner Circle program if you're not doing that currently. But the really big thing I did was I hired a mentor. So I hired a very, very successful mentor. He ran multiple gyms as an absolute weapon at marketing and sales, because I realized our issue, right? When you're kind of faced with this issue, it's like, okay, we need to increase revenue. So that's all like marketing and sales, because we didn't really have a retention issue because we just moved to a new club and everyone was like super stoked with it, right? It was like everything's new. No one's kind of leaving in that phase. It was just a couple of 100 meters down the line. And there was a lot of sacrifices I had to make. I had like a big birthday party planned, but he had like a 2-day, like kind of like an immersion event in Melbourne. So I flew down to that, went there. And one of the things that I committed to myself was to be the best client within that program. Now, I'm not sure whether I was or whether I wasn't, but our gym went from, at that time, was about probably 90 members all the way up to 500 members in 12 months. And that was in the golden age of, Facebook ads. And it was absolutely crazy. We're running ads. We learned how to market, how to get more referrals, outreach, joint ventures. And we learned how to create a business that, sold our trial, our 28-day offers into 24-week programs. And it was absolutely amazing. And it definitely took us a while to get through that, phase of being really stretched financially, but then it became an incredibly profitable business. And, that's where mentors are really, really powerful. If you have a specific problem that you need to improve on, is you want to make sure you go to someone who's done what you want to do, right? Not those gypsies who have never ran a successful gym or don't know anything about it and they're just kind of teaching you tactics. You need a specified mentor, which, as you guys are listening to this, there's hundreds of fitness business mentors out there, some good, some bad. I'll just check their track record and what they did within their own businesses and things like that, and also check off their clients within the program. It usually tells you pretty quickly on that one. And the next one was actually a very tough one, because what kind of happened, we moved into this new facility. It was big change of culture. We went from personal training to group training, and we had a trainer in there. And he was he's an exceptional trainer, probably one of the best personal trainers I've ever seen. And obviously I've been trained with. He's absolutely amazing talent. But what kind of happened was, he didn't buy in with our vision, because our vision and our mission changed when we went from group training. We went from that one-on-one customized, style programming to, group training and boot camp based, where it's not as customized, and he didn't really buy in on that. And there was a couple of telltale signs. When I kind of reflect on it, we probably should have let him go 6 months earlier rather than, him leaving and things like that. I'll kind of tell you the story a bit. But one of the things I kind of learned is you want to pick up on these signs. So firstly, he was posting on his socials about how, wasn't direct cracks at our business, but how he didn't believe in our philosophy and our ethos. And that was absolutely catastrophic to our morale around the gym. And then we're having our team meetings on a Monday, and he would rock in and be totally fucking disinterested. It was borderline disrespectful, what was kind of going down. And then laying on foam rollers and just cruising, and just clearly, guys, I'll be honest, he did not give a fuck for the last 6 months, right? And I was too much of a pussy. I'll say it openly. Myself, my business partner were weak. We were really weak at that time, and we're we're so scared to lose this guy, blah, 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 right? And we let this kind of just roll on for 6 to 9 months, right? This person's clearly not in with the culture, clearly doesn't love the business, is being borderline, straight up disrespectful to everyone within the business, and clearly just doesn't want to be there, right? So you've got to just let these people go. But what happened was, we gave him the ability to plan a new gym that he opened literally a K down the road, right? We gave him time to plan that. And when he left, he's hey, I've got a shoulder injury. I need to have surgery. I'm going to have 6 months off. I'm okay, cool. We'll look after all your clients and things like that. Bang, before you know it, 3 weeks later, he had a gym open down the road. Now, we had contracts and things like that, but as you know, you're not going to go and sue someone for that. And we lost over 30 personal training clients, which is one of the things that does happen with personal training. With those clients, with that one-on-one, a lot of clients will leave with that trainer, especially if they leave locally. So I'm not sure whether we could have saved those 30 clients if we let him go early, because he probably would have just went down the road and got a job at another gym, and they all went with him. But the lesson that I really learned was not to have people in your business unless they want to be there. Only have people who will pay you respect, who buy in with your vision, who buy in with your culture, who buy in with your training philosophies, right? And if you're changing, if you have someone like that, right, it's better to get rid of them and to get someone who comes in and loves what you do. Because we had trainers at Code 5 who were nowhere near as technically sound as that trainer, because the trainer who left is an absolute weapon. And the new trainers that we got were nowhere near as good as him. Not as good technically with nutrition, everything like that. But they brought him with our culture, and they were better employees. They were better for the community, and they got better results across the board because they really bought in and they wanted to be there, and they were really active and engaged. And that's really the biggest lesson that I learned out of that kind of whole period, is that if you're seeing these telltale signs, obviously talk to them and try and fix it. But if it continues on, just get rid of them. It's better for them, and it's better for you, and it's better for the business to only have people who really want to work with you and are 100% all in. Now, along the times, we've had a lot of DA issues, which is like council issues or people within your strata trying to kick you out. At one of our gyms, like it went from like 90 members to like 500. So there was like parking issues. Another one was like sound issues. There was a photography place next door. And when we were playing music, there was like, sound and they're kind of blowing up and things like that. And these people kind of came at us very aggressively to try and essentially kick us out of our leases like very, very quickly. And it's still something that the guys at Code 5 with, I'm sure, are dealing with today because it's kind of ongoing. But one of the things I kind of learned with this is it's very much about like people management and trying to find like a good outcome for everyone involved. So one of the things we did with the sound issues is we like sounded up everything so it's a lot quieter. And then we also turned the music down at those 9:30 classes and also at the ones in the afternoon while they're still working to come to a fair agreement with everyone where it's like kind of tolerable for everyone. No one's winning like 100%, but it makes it workable in that situation with the sound. And also with the parking, which was like a massive issue. We had strata meetings and people like, we want them out today. They're parking our parks and things like that. We had to teach our clients firstly to pay respect to other people's parks. In big unit complexes, people often don't do that. They'll just parking fucking anywhere. And then we had to make, again, a fair arrangement for everyone. So in our classes of the morning, we have someone who would go out and direct people where to park. And if someone parked in the wrong spot, we'll tell them to move and go and park somewhere where they can. And then also announce it in the classes. And it became a part of our culture where we were really focused on making sure everyone pays respect to our other people's parks within the complex. And that's just like a couple of like different things where your people management, and it's not necessarily finding a win for everyone, like a complete win, but it's finding something where you can really negotiate and then you can put standards and practices in place to show people that you're making a positive difference to try and remedy it so that it becomes workable for everyone. Now, obviously, these were with like people, right? A little bit different if you're going to the council. It's like a little bit trickier, but you want to make sure you always have DA and council approval to run a fitness facility and things like that, that you've got enough parks and everything. So you don't have those issues down the line, because one of the things that really saved us is because with all our clubs, we had DA before we went in. So the council kind of gave it the tick of approval, right? Is it meant they didn't have that much to go. Like they couldn't go to the council and try and kick us out really aggressively. They had to go to strata. So then when strata, it becomes a negotiation and agreement, right? Strata don't want you to move out because you don't have to pay their rent. They have a tenant who's pissed off. And they also just want everyone to kind of get along as best you can. So that really made everything a lot easier for us by having the DA. So it wasn't really like they could just go to council and kick us out, which I've seen happen to people all across Australia where, they don't have DA and then they're just out like within 90 days or 30 days. And it's absolutely catastrophic to the business. And there was another time, we've only got 2 left. So how we lost 50 members in 3 months. And when I was injured and I had to kind of change roles. So guys, when we lost 50 members in 3 months, that was absolutely crazy. So we had 2 gyms at the time. They were doing like really, really well. And me and my business partner were like, hey, like let's release ourselves from this business and like, do other things that we had. That's kind of why I'm here with you today, because we started the agency and now, business coaching, like a couple of hundred people, and it's amazing. But those sort of stuff. So that was one of the things we wanted to do together. So anyway, so we just like stepped out of the gyms, right? We put a manager in place at our really big club. This is the one that lost 50 members. And what kind of happened is we sold this person to become the manager of this club. It was like a $1.5 million a year business, right? So he was a trainer, fucking absolute legend of a guy, but wasn't a manager. Didn't want to be a manager, and to manage a business of that size with like a little bit of support, but we definitely didn't support him as much as we should, obviously got really, really bad results. That was one of the reasons why we got bad results. So it wasn't really the biggest reason. The biggest reason was because we weren't even tracking KPIs, key performance indicators, of how many leads we got each week, how many sales, how many cancels and things like that. So we didn't have our fingers on the pulse. So we didn't understand the health of our business from week to week. Now, if this happened today and we put the wrong person in the wrong role, we would know that pretty much within 21 to 28 days. And we wouldn't have lost 50 members. We might have lost like 12 and be able to fix it very quickly. But you want to make sure you track these KPIs, because we got 3 months down the line and we're 50 members down. And this is how I connected with my current mentor, Charlie. And I'm like, mate, what's going on? Like, is it leads? We need more leads. We need more sales. And he goes, hey, we need to look at your KPIs. I'm like, what's that? And then as we started to track our KPIs, we had a very great understanding of our business from week to week, from day to day. So these really bad things don't happen. And also as well, guys, you want to make sure you put the right person in the right position. Okay. So it's very easy to sell someone, hey, do you want to be a manager of this club? It's going to be so great, this, that, and that. Right. But you've got to understand that sometimes trainers are better being trainers, right? And you can get managers in who are better being managers. I'm not saying to not hire internally, but do not sell someone on a role so well that they get in a position where at the end of it, he's like, hey, I just didn't really want to do this. I didn't feel comfortable saying no. But then also as well, guys, one of the things we did is we didn't release correctly. So we just kind of left, and we're still around the gyms for 30 minutes a day, whatever. But our onboarding process from getting someone from a trainer to a manager was extremely poor. And it's the first time we did it. So, if I had a mentor at the time, I'm sure we would have done it better. But it goes with the basics. You have a manager, spend a month with them, do their day-to-day work with them. Then have a couple of weeks where you're there and they can ask you any questions as a turnover, as a changeover. And then instead there'll be a day where you're like, are you comfortable doing this role without me? It might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks, it might be 8 weeks, but that time is their onboarding, right? So you make these amazing staff members. And it's the same with any of your trainer onboarding. And I should have known this, but I didn't, because we had an amazing trainer onboarding, went for 12 weeks. But for any new role that someone is, there has to be an extensive onboarding process where you're there with them, and then you're helping them and you're supporting them, and you also have those KPIs to check in on. And guys, the last one, and this was absolutely shattering at the time. I was playing footy, absolutely loved AFL, and I ruptured my pec. So, what kind of was happening at that time? I was working 30 hours on the floor and managing and training and just kind of growing the gym, just hustling, right? And one of the things that happened, because we're so active within our classes, right, is obviously being in a sling, having a ruptured pec, which I was in hospital for a day, and then was kind of at home for a week. And then you can't really move it too much. So I couldn't work pretty much for, about 8 weeks. So I couldn't run glute classes at the level, couldn't demo stuff. So I had to kind of step out. And that was really, really tough. Firstly, because I got injured and I love sport, but then also because I lost my identity, because I used to love being on the gym floor, pumping people up, giving them amazing sessions, being the highlight. That 45 minutes was trying to make it the highlight of their day. And I had to kind of learn this a tough way. And there was a couple of weeks where I was just didn't really know what to do, and I was just kind of hanging around. But it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because it taught me how to market and how to sell, because I had to start to influence the business in other ways. I had to become a better manager, right? Better at marketing, better at selling, better at teaching the team. That's where we got the secret shopper report, where we give our trainers reviews on the sessions, and had to become obviously someone that was super beneficial to have around. But I had to create this role, and it really changed me. And it was one of the best things ever, because it changed me from working in the business to working on the business. Right. And I'm not saying in the business is running the sessions and things like that. Working on the business is how do we, generate more leads, close more sales? How do we make our team better? How do we make our operations run better? And some really, really amazing things, kind of happened from that. And it was a very, very funny time, because what happened, I was off the floor for 12 weeks. And then what happened is pec injury is a 16-week injury. The last 4 weeks, we actually had a trainer away on holidays, and I stepped back on the floor again. And I was really, really, really enjoying it. But then I came back and played footy. And in that first game, I broke my scaphoid, my wrist. So I was actually in a cast for another 12 weeks, so I couldn't work again. And that truly transferred me out from being a trainer, because after that second 12 weeks, I wasn't ever coming back on the floor, because I just learned how to market and sell, and our business was growing so rapidly for the last 6 months. And I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't broken my wrist the second time, which again was absolutely shattering. But I don't know whether I would have become the manager and the salesperson and the marketer that I am today without that second injury. And you want to just always make sure that, any negative can turn into a massive positive if you make yourself useful. And one of the biggest things you have to identify is, how can you always bring value to any situation? And, you might be going from a time where you're working on the floor and hopefully you don't get injured to where you just, manage the business. And that's where, I built out things like operations checklists, like our marketing plan. I made sure I did that every day. Our sales, I was like doing the consults because I can do that in a sling. I can do that like with a broken wrist and things like that. And you really develop these really great management skills because it forced me to not be a trainer, which I was so used to. So guys, when you're if you ever get injured, just make sure you make yourself useful, become that better manager, better leader. But also if you're going to a phase where you're not running any classes, what I always recommend to my guys in the inner circle is stop doing morning classes to start, because you wake up with more energy and can get more done. And then you get rid of your evening classes a little bit later down the line. But you want to focus on how can you generate more leads? Because if you can generate yourself another 5 to 10 leads a week that turn into, 3 to 5 sales, you've made more money than you ever would being on the floor. Then how can you become better at your sales, your over the phone sales or your sales via consultation? And then how can you improve the running of the business? How can you make your trainers better? How can you make your gym run like a McDonald's? So, an 18, 21-year-old or 24-year-old can run a lot of the processes in the gym without your help, without you being there, by creating checklists and videos and, operations manuals to make sure that they can win at their job. And of course, I'm going to go back in that phase, right? I wasn't at the time, but I should have been learning to track the KPIs. So I knew how successful the work I was doing. I kind of saw the member numbers growing. So I figured, hey, it's like kind of all working out. So guys, there's probably 5 of some of the toughest moments that I've had owning the gyms and going from the 27 to 1,200 members. And I hope that gives you a bit of perspective that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and also a few tactics to show you that you can overcome any adversity and become an absolute weapon and have the absolute gym of your dreams. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd really love if you, share this on Instagram, or if you ever want to connect, just send me a private message, or you can reach out to me on social media. We do have our free group, Gym Growth, as well on Facebook if you'd like to join that as well.